When you're on a smaller team, you don't need to create a unique page for every single thing, especially at that point. You want better site experience.
Welcome to Honest E-Commerce, a podcast dedicated to cutting through the BS and finding actionable advice for online store owners. I'm your host, Chase Clymer, and I believe running a direct-to-consumer brand does not have to be complicated or a guessing game. On this podcast, we interview founders and experts who are putting in the work and creating real results. I also share my own insights from running our top Shopify consultancy, Electric Eye. We cut the fluff in favor of facts to help you grow your e-commerce business. Let's get on with the show. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Honest E-Commerce. I'm your host, Chase Clymer, and today I'm welcoming to the show Nicole Goldberg. She is the Director of Growth at Faherty. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you so much for having me on.
I'm super excited to chat to you because I am a fan of the brand. I have a bunch of the clothes, so I know a lot about you, and you hopefully know some about me, I guess. I don't know where I was going with that.
Definitely listened to some episodes, so really excited to be here contributing. Think it's a great platform.
Mutual fans. I love that. So quickly, for those that are unfamiliar with Faherty, could you let them know the types of awesome, and I mean genuinely awesome, comfortable products that you guys sell?
Yeah, so Faherty is men's and women's and some kids apparel. We're a little bit on the more high quality, sustainable, very casual beach vibes that work really throughout your day. So have some professional wear in there too, but really trying to make that emphasis of looking good, being comfortable, what you can wear and be active in your life, going from one place to another. Clothes for on the go, but really fitting into every part of your life.
Absolutely. It's great stuff. All right. So take me back in time. When did you link up with Faherty? Or maybe take me back a little bit further to kind of talk about your career before you got to Faherty. How's that sound?
Yeah, perfect. So I have been working in digital marketing, specifically in more the retail, ready-to-wear area for about 15 years now. Mainly been focused in digital marketing. I've been at brands like Tom's, AG Jeans, 7 for All Mankind, BCBG, a couple more in there, but really focused on the paid space. Really love digital. Coming out was kind of before these things started to be taught in school. So kind of learned more on the job versus now it's amazing seeing people coming out and know how to do everything right off of the classes that they took in college. So I've been in here for a while, and then I've been at Faherty for 2 years now. The company itself is 11 years old, so I started already as they were pretty well developed there, but we've seen just huge astronomical growth the last few years at the company. So it's really exciting time that I got to be in the company and be part of some of that really big uptick that we've seen the last few years.
Absolutely. And also the last few years, there's been just volatility in how you track this stuff, what you can get away with or do in all these different areas that affect kind of growth. So let's talk about kind of not how or why you got your job, but like what was the need for hiring someone like you? What does a 10-year-old almost brand need in like a senior leadership role like you? What are you to bring to the table and help them accomplish?
Yeah, Faherty, I mean, it was such a fun spot to be in when they were looking for a role that it was pretty irresistible to want to be at the company. They had grown significantly by word of mouth, very organic, and hadn't put that much effort into paid. They had started just before I came on board with some efforts. They were getting, paid search. They'd started on Meta. They're getting out. And we're trying to dip their toe and figure out how to expand and be further. So they were starting to bring on some different partners, but didn't have a strong strategy in place yet for how to really be expanding and grow and how to scale the way they want. As I said, we've had some huge growth in the last few years. And we were doing a lot of, especially when I first came on, that the rose spaghetti onto the wall and see what sticks. Like a lot of, which is great and so fun to actually step into a company that's willing to do that and have that. I think that's incredibly rare to see a company. And especially, as you said, the markets have been really all over the place. So to have that flexibility was so much fun to come into. We were just starting with CTV. Podcast was a huge thing that there was a lot of interest in. We played around in different types of social platforms like Reddit we played with for a while, different types of native display, different types of ads in that sense. And so really I kind of came in and looked at everything that we were doing under the growth umbrella and, kept it going, started doing testing with them, and slowly over the last 2 years have honed in on what's worked. We use, I think something that's incredibly important is looking at your kind of attribution between channels. There's a lot of how are you looking at between, there's last click, which is very kind of old school, but I think a lot of companies are still using that. But of course, you can't still just look at in-channel performance. And then there's different attribution models. I'm not a huge fan of attribution models because there's just, you're kind of guessing. Are you giving a certain percent to the first click versus the last click versus a middle one? There's so many different models. You're playing a guessing game there. So what we use at Faherty is incrementality, which is a tool we partner with a company called Measured, which I love. I think they're great, but there are other companies out there that do the same thing. And that's really a lot of A/B testing of turning off channels one at a time and looking at if this was completely turned off, what is that channel going to be driving or what's going to be driving without that there. So you really can see what actually is coming out of this channel. So we base a lot of our performance on looking at the incrementality of our channel by each one. And then that's really helped us honed in and narrow down what our marketing is. That being said, we still are very lucky as a company and have a pretty good width, but we see what works, what audience work for us and hone in on what works better. And that's been huge, been a super big game changer.
I love that you shared the tool that you're using, because that's one of the favorite things our listeners like is to know what these things are and to learn about them. I'm assuming you guys are spending quite a bit. So, what would you say for a tool like that, kind of setting expectations, like where they might need to understand where they need to be at in their business to look at something like that versus maybe something that's a little more budget friendly?
I mean, I think it's so hugely wonderful, but it is about an $10K a month to be working with them. Of course, that they'll do different deals. Depends on the size of your business. So I'm just giving a very big
ballpark, an
average on there. So I think that's overall pretty affordable. It's definitely much cheaper than getting a full MMM solution. So that's one of which those type of tools are great if you're really trying to look at what is a billboard impact going to be doing? What are your retail stores having the impact of online? That's kind of the next level up, where I think Faherty will be growing to in the longer run. But we're really focused at this point on kind of the e-commerce channel. As I said, that's going to be our next phase, which we're leading into, we're scoping things out, but by 2025 of getting a little bit more omni in our marketing. Mm-hmm. So I think that Judge It Out, it's a great tool. It also aggregates all of your paid channels. We've never had a paid channel that we can't link up into there. That includes working with influencers, podcasts, where those aren't a typical kind of plug and play with most dashboards. So it really works as a hub of tracking all of our media spend, all of the performance in there, and then has that incremental and the testing value there. And every leadership team I've ever been on gets very happy when you say testing, that you're testing something. So it gives that confidence of leaning in.
That's amazing. Hey there, merchant. Are you tired of trying to navigate the wild world of e-commerce on your own? Are you looking for a partner to help you achieve your goals? Look no further than the Shopify Plus agency, Electric Eye. Our team has a proven track record of helping our clients make millions with strategic design and development. Whether you're migrating from a legacy platform to Shopify, designing a new theme for your store, or just looking to optimize what you already have, Electric Eye is the perfect partner for you. Electric Eye are true Shopify experts. Not only is our Shopify knowledge unparalleled, but we have partnerships with all the best tech in the Shopify ecosystem. And don't worry, we're easy to get a hold of. Our clients rave about our fast communication. So here's the deal. If you're an e-commerce business doing over $1 million a year, you can receive a complimentary Shopify diagnostic from our team of experts. That's free, personalized, strategic recommendations to improve your store and grow your business. To get started, head on over to electriceye.io/connect to schedule an intro call with one of our experts. That's electriceye.io/connect. For our listeners, there's a lot of them out there that are probably more in that $1 million, 7-figure range. what would you recommend to them with your 15 years of experience around growth and performance and how to not dabble in this world, but how to do it the right way?
Yeah, absolutely. When you're still in the, like at $1 million, this is going to be too expensive a tool for you. And there are some tools out there. Don't know them off the top of my head, but search around looking for incrementality. You might be able to find some things at a $2,000 to $3,000 a month kind of range. And there's more that are coming out because there's so much success and positivity that's coming out of a model like this. I'm seeing a lot more companies jump up. House was one that I just saw recently that looked cool. I think Rockerbox is one that does it, but there's a couple out there. Mm-hmm. But until you get to that point, because really when you're really at that $1 to $5 million, your budgets are tight, you aren't getting a lot of tools around you. I would really, this is still how I kind of look at our marketing, is I would be looking at both last click and in-channel performance and kind of have a dashboard where you've built out and you're looking at both of them and really understand in your funnel where different tactics are hitting. That's where I would say is the most important. So for example, for us, paid social, specifically Meta, is our highest spend. And we really see a lot of success there on pushing specific products to new customers. It's a wonderful new customer prospecting tool. But of course, if I'm looking at that at a last click basis, you're not going to be seeing performance there. Like you're going to be saying, why am I doing something that's going to be I'm just thinking across industries, but like a 0.5 return on ad spend or something, looking at a last click tool, or even if you're doing amazing and looking more lower funnel, you're going to be still at around a 2x for paid social. Why would I invest there when my affiliates is a 15x or my search is a 6x or whatever those are for you? And it's really understanding like what tools go to top of funnel, what's going to be getting you new customers. And so you're trying to balance out what are your different ROAS goals and KPIs based off of the funnel points that you're looking at. So setting expectations accordingly, that you looking at if you can pull in, if you're able to get tools, or even using Google Analytics as a benchmark for what are your new customers coming in and what are your goals set on that, and building towards that new customer. So a tool like, again, prospecting in Meta, prospecting in TikTok and display, getting those set down. So you know that your last click goals aren't going to be good. You're looking at kind of how they're performing in channel a little bit more as your basis point, and that you have that full funnel approach.
That is an amazingly detailed strategy that I'm going to even make, I'm ruined because I'm not a good Facebook advertiser, but I'm going to dumb it down for people because I understood enough. But basically, if you're going to do prospecting on Meta, A, good idea. B, understand the last click attribution is going to be bad. But if you switch the attribution to net new customer, which is difficult to track just in Meta natively, but you can do this with all these other solutions out there. But if you can see the customer growth from that channel, you will then be a believer. And just to like give you an example, I know everyone out here also has iPhones and Androids, and you're on Instagram and Facebook, and you see yourself getting targeted by these brands a couple times a week or a day. That's because you're in their like prospecting window. So that's the time when you're trying to get a lot more exposure of the brand to potentially a new customer. Did I do a good job of explaining that?
Yes, thank you for making that much more digestible. I would say one of the plays where specifically looking at, you see success in a tool like social media versus just maybe a more generic non-brand tactic, which we do, but I think is a little bit of a more luxury when you're getting a little bit more spend there. You're starting to layer in non-brand. But when you're on social looking for a new customer, you're getting people that aren't specifically looking for something. They're on a platform and they just discover it because it's forced in their face. It's almost the same way as a TV commercial would be, except you can click on it, you can be distracted, you can be really natively in the platform there. So that's why those tools work very well for new customer specific acquisition.
No, exactly. And it's also, you just have to understand that like, since they aren't actively looking, you need to like show them a couple times so the psychology in it is like, maybe I am looking for that actually, because I've seen it a bunch and the ad is good and it's catching me. that looks like a comfortable t-shirt, or I can see myself wearing that. And then you go from not knowing anything about the brand to now you're interested in and that ad itself has now done its entire job, which has converted you from not existing in the ethos to now a warm lead for that brand. And then hopefully they've got other ads in the funnel to do the job.
Absolutely. I think, and this might have changed over the years, but it's something like 5 to 7 touch points are required for everyone before they make a purchase.
It's 500 to 700 now. I mean, I don't know. There's so much noise on the internet and so much advertising out there.
One of the questions that I do get asked a lot for people that are really just starting their business is where the first place is to start investing. I have $500 a month. What should I be spending on? And to your point of really just starting to get out there, get your name. And that's where, again, I really would recommend starting on Meta, doing a campaign where you're doing an awareness campaign and you're just trying to get it. You're doing broad, you're doing about your brand, you're getting kind of that vibe and feel out. And then you move kind of slowly, looking at like 6 weeks or so of running an awareness. Then you start to layer in a traffic campaign. You have that start to build for 6 weeks, and then you layer in something for more of a conversion campaign there. So you're keeping these awareness, your traffic on still as you're building that bucket of getting people to know about your company, and exactly to your point, moving them still a little down funnel, even though these are still all very prospecting campaigns. You're getting that really heightened awareness all the way down to getting a new customer to convert.
Absolutely. I think if you talked to any senior marketer out there, they'll have a million opinions, love and hate on Meta, but they will all say it is still the number one demand generation channel for a physical product these days. There's by far nothing else can compete with it. TikTok's coming along, but it's still Meta.
I would agree. It's definitely love hate, like hate doing, but it sure does work.
Yeah, and that's the thing. If it's someone a long time ago compared Meta, it's like once you figure it out and you have a good structure to your accounts and your campaigns, it's kind of like an ATM. you put $1 in and more dollars are going to come out. You gotta figure out that puzzle in the middle.
That's funny. I'm gonna say use that.
Other than Meta, what else are you guys experimenting with? And even outside of just driving traffic and hopefully conversions from paid ads and marketing, what else falls under the wheelhouse of kind of your position? Yeah,
we have a lot of fun things that are going on right now. I would say when you have budget, when you're getting a little bit bigger, but I don't know, maybe around $10 million, but really earlier than you would think that you should start looking at tools like CTV. It's a really fantastic tool to have in your media mix there for awareness, for storytelling. It's much more affordable and much more actionable. You can do a lot more retargeting on it than a linear TV. The audience targeting is fantastic. And truly probably the most difficult part of it is getting it so that your creative team is making something that works for that platform.
Pretend I don't know what that platform is. What is that?
I'm sorry. It's connected TV. And that's where you're seeing most people now aren't going in to watch cable just through DirecTV. They have Hulu and Netflix and Apple TV and Amazon Prime TV and all these different networks where they're watching TV on ESPN on through apps. And it's commercials that are playing through the apps versus, again, just going through your DirecTV and you're clicking through the channels. It's typical, you're moving between different apps. So CTV is commercials that are playing on those, but it allows you to be much more targeted to your audience. You shift dollars very easily between the platforms, and you can scale in at a tighter budget than you can in a linear TV to, again, really hone in. And it works very well. It's a great awareness tool, but awareness tool that you can also be putting retargeting for. You can see really good customer data. So it allows it to lean a little bit more lower funnel than traditionally linear TV. And then linear TV is also difficult because that audience is aging out. So if you're looking at a more millennial audience, there's even Gen X, you're really leaning more towards CTV at this point for that core audience. And then, of course, anything going down there. But that's a great tool, but it does require you to have video content. So that's a little bit one area there. Podcasts, This is one that we did a ton of experimenting with at Faherty when, especially during the pandemic, people were listening to podcasts across the board. It was probably a little bit easier to test everywhere and get on, and there was lots of ears. At this point, we've honed in more on specific podcasts that we're doing advertising with, finding our niches, finding our audience, but we see really good dedicated audience there, especially getting it so that it's host read. You're getting it so that there's more of a connection, especially, if you can get someone that has an affinity for the brand, which we're lucky. Faherty is one that's a little easier to.
I know all about ads on podcasts as a podcast host that does host read ads.
Well, I would say they work well.
They do. I'm always asking. I'm always asking for a better offer or a better hook. It's like, you're hearing this. I'm not on a computer. You need what's going to make me stop and do the action, and it's got to be really easy action. Is that a challenge that you guys find with writing the scripts for the ads?
Well, our challenge is that Faherty is a hard word to say or spell. So we always have to make it very clear that you're spelling out the website name there, making it very clear this is where you go and this is the code that you use. I think one that's a little bit challenging where we've had to make some adjustments to is that you want to give all these key points for someone to hit on your brand. And you're not really when you're thinking about it in the context or what you're listening to, you want something that just feels a little bit more conversational, a little more casual. You don't want the host just saying facts to you, because I can just give you facts in a different platform. What I'm getting is Chase telling me why this is a good product and putting your opinion in there. And so loosening up your key points you want to hit and narrowing that down to just, here's 2 or 3 things, and then you riff and tell me what you like about the product.
Yeah, I've worked with some pretty big brands on ads, and the bigger they were, the more they said, if you say these 3 things, we're probably going to like it.
Yeah, exactly. Narrow it down and let them go with it otherwise. But yeah, podcasts I think are great. And then one that we're playing a lot with now, this is for us really looking at, Faherty is a huge company, but I'm based in Los Angeles. Faherty is an East Coast brand. We're right now based out of New York, but it was started in New Jersey. And awareness is still something that amazes me on the West Coast. It's not as much there, even though we do have stores in Malibu and Venice and down in San Diego. Number of stores here, but especially men have a bit better awareness of it, but women not as much. But it's still kind of hit or miss here on the West Coast. So there's a lot of potential still for growth here, and so we really still try to focus quite a bit on new customers as we're expanding really over the whole country. And so we really have a focus on that. And we've started to play around in Google with our Performance Max campaigns, really focusing in on new customers, focusing in on non-brand, trying to really hone that, because of course, while it's a great tool across the board, you see great performance, it's AI based, which every leadership loves when you say something's working off of AI. It does anything there, which is really trying to convert for, I'm speaking in broad strokes, but in broad strokes, when you're looking for what's going to drive performance, it is going to move a little bit more mid to lower funnel. So we've worked on trying to push that one up to be more new customer focused, which is Google's actually making that easier and easier to do with Performance Max. So that's one that we've been playing around with. And on a tangent to that, you can also do similar things on Meta with ASC. With ASC campaigns, which is also their AI solution. So you kind of want to manipulate and play with them a little bit if you're really pushing for new customers, but still get that AI benefit.
Yeah, I've only heard good things about Performance Max, actually. Twitter or X really loves that product.
That's very funny. I'm not a huge X follower, but it definitely works very well.
It has gone downhill since the name change, let me tell you. Elon, please don't shadow ban me.
No, it works really well across the board. As with any of these tools, when they're AI based, you lose a little bit of visibility. It's going across lots of different placements. You're getting YouTube, you're getting on Gmail, you're getting display, but also to the earlier point of wanting multiple touch points, there's a benefit to that. And so actually, even though you might I want to be getting these search, I want shopping to be showing up there. And the majority is, it actually has a benefit of having more touch points there than you realize.
Absolutely. Now, I've got a question now. Does the on-site experience fall under your umbrella as well? Are you making sure that, I can get the traffic there and it's still got to convert?
No, we have a fantastic director of our site experience who I partner with very closely because, to your point, well, it's what pages am I driving traffic to? What is the experience once they're there? We actually try to, for example, for our podcast, we create specific landing pages a lot of times for that. Same with influencers. So trying to get the best hone insight, but also, that's really from every touch point, whether you're looking at email or what search landing pages you're driving to or what product you're highlighting or an affiliate newsletter that's going out, really making sure that on-site experience matches what you're speaking to and optimizing. If something's not working, how are you changing that so that, you're making adjustments to it? What tools are you using to test? So we're lucky that we do have a different team that's doing that. I certainly have been the one that's doing, especially at smaller companies where you're doing the digital marketing and on-site experience. So I would also say, as when you're on a smaller team, you don't need to create a unique page for every single thing, especially at that point. You want better site experience. And if that is easier for you to manage 5 pages versus 20 pages for all these different places, link them to 5 pages, find the 5 pages that work best, that you can manage, that you can be staying on top of, instead of linking to a page which you will forget about and looked great when you launched this campaign, but this campaign runs for 3 months and you're going to forget about it and not have the bandwidth to be updating it. Take them to new arrivals. There's no problem with that. You'll be keeping it updated.
Absolutely. Nicole, I think that we could go on forever about performance, and I've had so much fun talking to you, but we are drawing close to the end here. Is there anything I didn't ask you about that you think would resonate with our audience?
No, this was great. Really exciting. I would love to give a code, though, to your audience if they're interested in any Faherty.
Personally, to me, because I'm going to use it.
Yeah, please do. Use just the code HONEST20 at fahertybrand.com. So that's FAHERTY, then brand, BRAND.com. Simply HONEST20 for 20% off full purchase.
Awesome. Nicole, thank you so much for coming on the show. We'll try to link to anything that she had mentioned in the show notes. We'll make sure that code is in there as well. Nicole, again, thank you so much. I'll probably reach out, next year and have you back on to chat about stuff.
Absolutely. I would love to. Thank you for having me on. This was a lot of fun.
We can't thank our guests enough for coming on the show and sharing their knowledge and journey with us. We've got a lot to think about and potentially add into our own businesses. You can find all the links in the show notes. You can subscribe to the newsletter at honestecommerce.co to get each episode delivered right into your inbox. If you're enjoying this content, consider leaving a review on iTunes. That really helps us out. Lastly, if you're a store owner looking for an amazing partner to help you get your Shopify store to the next level, reach out to Electric Eye at electriceye.io/connect. Until next time.